In my last video, you might have noticed that prior to discussing the history of aspirin, my illustration had a book called Malaria Explained. Though on the surface this might seem to have nothing to do with aspirin, it's a reference to its rise in prominence. As I mentioned, willow bark preparations, which contain a variant of aspirin's active ingredient, were used as far back as a few thousand years BCE for pain and fever. But they really rose to prominence in the late 18th century. At the time, malaria, or a constellation of symptoms that they called ague, was endemic in Europe, and the standard treatment was Peruvian bark, an expensive bark from the Cinchona genus of plants that, you guessed it, had to be imported from Peru. Pretty difficult in the 1700s. An English cleric named Edward Stone was suffering himself from ague and was encouraged to chew on willow bark. He noted its very bitter taste, and knowing that Peruvian bark was also very bitter, wondered if it could also cure ague. He gave crushed, dried willow bark to 50 people and noted how it helped their fevers, prompting him to write a letter to the president of the Royal Society, thinking that he found a replacement for Peruvian bark. Other than being a neat piece of history, the story also contains two lessons. 1. Clearly, more chemists should taste their experiments. And 2. Choosing and interpreting the endpoints for an experiment are very important. Peruvian bark contains a compound called quinine, that wildly fluorescent molecule in tonic water that was a first-line treatment for malaria until the early 2000s. So Peruvian bark was actually able to kill the parasite responsible for malaria and put an end to patients' fevers. The salicylates in willow bark were also able to reduce a patient's fever, but did not attack the underlying cause, in the same way that cough syrup reduces a cough without treating an underlying infection. In the short term, however, patients treated with both barks might look exactly the same, no fever. So willow bark, useful? Yes. A cure for malaria? No. Choosing and interpreting proper endpoints in an experiment matters.